So one thing you may have noticed is that what we're doing still isn't that interactive, right? Like it's cool. I can target things by their ID or their class or their tag, and I can use these really cool selectors for attributes to really like hone in on just the elements I want on the page. And that's cool. And you can even go ahead and add CSS to them or remove their CSS and hide them and show them. I mean, we've learned a lot of stuff that you can do with the page. The thing is, though, it still isn't very interactive because we, run everything. So, like for example, in our example, when I make changes, the JavaScript loads, and then that's it. Like, there's still no interaction between the user and the page. The HTML just basically runs the JavaScript, adds or removes the classes, and that's it. So we still haven't gotten to the point where we're really being interactive, which was the whole point of JavaScript. Like back in the mid '90s, like the thing that they wanted to do was to allow the web page to be more exciting and less like a rock that stares at you. So what they decided to do was add these things called events. All right, so an event is something that happens that the user does. That's the best way to think about it. So we have our computer and we like interact with our computer with our keyboard, so in our mouse. So we have all kinds of events that get raised. Okay, events, the verb used with events is raised. So events are raised when the user does something. The classic example is clicking the mouse. So like clicking a button or clicking on a picture is an event. Okay, you've done it a gajillion times. Hovering over things with your mouse. If you guys have used like menus and like hovered over them, right? Then you've noticed that your mouse will like maybe change insignia or like let me actually go to wired.com. Okay, so like if I go to it's like see here I'm hovering over it, then it goes like underlined. So like these menu items, okay, they look normal, but then when I hover over them, they become underlined. My hovering over it is an event. Okay, I did something. I, as the user, did something. I clicked somewhere, I hovered over something, I typed something with my keyboard. All those things are events. Okay, and we want our website to respond to events because we want it to be interactive. This is why I'm talking about interactivity. Um, is responding to the user doing stuff. I'm scrolling, I'm clicking, I'm hovering, blah, blah, blah. All right. A lot of events, there's a ton of them. All right. So, like, we're going to learn a bunch of them, but, like, there's things like when the page loads, that's an event. When the page unloads, when it gets resized, when the user, like, pushes down on a key or releases the key. Like, these are very granular, right? Like I want to know exactly what the user is doing. Like key press, key up, key down, clicking, double clicking, mouse over, their mouse is off the element. Some of these events kind of change from a desktop to a phone because some phones may not have sensors for like noticing where your finger is. Some do, some don't. So like some of these events will be applicable just depending on what device you're at. Just wanted to add that little piece of detail there, but for the most part, like these are some sample events. If you go to MDN, oh my gosh, there are more. All right, alt drag leave, key down event, paste event. Someone like paste something. Their pointer leaves. They're scrolling. They touch cancel. Okay, animation, when you move stuff around, when certain animations happen, you can respond to them. The reason there are so many events is because we really want to be able to respond to these events. We want to change the class of things based on an event. So, for example, when we go back to our this example, the class, okay, of these links is actually being changed in response to my hovering over them. Okay, that is basically it. I am hovering over them and then their class is changing. And that's kind of cool, right? Because that way we can change the look. And that's a lot of what you're going to be doing is the user does something, hits a key, clicks on something, hovers over something, et cetera, et cetera. And you're going to change your website based on what they do. That is what I mean by interactivity. That's what we want, okay, from JavaScript. And so we can do that. All right, so I've got some HTML here, and I've got a button with an ID of click me, and it p tagged with, would I look better in blue? Okay, would I look better in blue? I don't know. Would you? We'll find out. So I'm going to go over to my events.js, okay, and I'm going to first get this button. I need the object, so I'm going to do let click button. Again, variable name. Do not get hung up on this. This is not magic. This is a variable name you yourself came up with. You can go ahead and call it potato. All right, document.query selector. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and select it by its ID. All right, I'm in charge of the HTML. I get to decide. So click me. Cool, I've got my button. All right, now what we need to tell JavaScript is, hey, this element on my page, I need you to let it know there's an event tied to this element. The fancy terms, we're going to register the event, right? JavaScript has what are called event listeners. Each element, buttons, p tags, headers, etc. You can add event listeners to them to basically say, hey, this element, when someone does X, I want you to do Y. All right? So let's see that in action. So I've got my element click button. Click button dot add event listener, okay, is a function. This is part of the document object model API. What I'm saying is this button, okay, I want you to listen for this event. And okay, JavaScript's like, okay, what event do you want me to listen to? I'm sorry, the document object model is the click event. That means when someone clicks this button, I want you to do something. Well, JavaScript's like, well, what do you want me to do? I want you to do a specific function. So I'm going to go ahead and make a function here. Function button clicked. This is where our functions come in. All right, so I've got my function button clicked. Click button dot add event listener click, and then I'm going to give it the function I want it to run. Button clicked. See how this matches this? So what I am saying in line 3, just to be very clear, I'm telling the document object model, hey, go find this button called click me. It's got an ID of click me. Go give me that element that has the ID of click me. It will find this right here. Cool, you found it? Awesome, great. Listen, I need you to be prepared for when the user clicks this button. I don't know when the user is going to click the button. I don't even know if the user is going to click the button. But if they should click this button, whenever they do, okay, when they click it, I want you to run this function, button clicked, okay? And then the document object model will register this event, okay? And then whatever you do in this function, it will do. So I'm just going to do a console.log for right now and put button clicked. Okay, I'm going to save everything, and I'm going to put this in the big browser so that we can see with the console. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click this button. See what happened? Okay, I click the button, it does button clicked. Every time I click the button, so you can see the number goes up here, because when it repeats the same thing, it doesn't add new lines, that's cluttery. So when that button is clicked, it runs the function. So let's review that, because it's very important you get this. Find the element by its ID or class or whatever it is you need to do to find the element. Go find it, a single element. Take this single element, okay, add event listener to it. Add event listener says, hey, I want you to attach an event to this element. Well, what event do you want me to attach? That's the first argument, is going to be click. The person clicks something. Cool, they click something. After they click something, what do you want me to do? I want you to run this function. Cool, button clicked, awesome. It will go to the function button clicked and do whatever you put in here. All right, if you want to use anonymous functions, okay, or like arrow functions, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just using function declarations like this. You don't have to. There's no law that says you have to. All right, now, I wanted to go ahead and do some CSS changes. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, okay, I have this thing with an ID called better in blue. I'm going to go find that first. So I'm going to do let better in blue equal document dot get element by ID. I'm just switching it up. Okay, if you're saying, Jonathan, why didn't you use query selector? I could have used query selector. There's something that stopped me from using query selector. I just want to switch it up. So then I'm going to get this, would I look better in blue? And now I've got it right here in this variable. This element is contained in this variable. All right, well, I want to change its style now. I want to change its class. I'm going to go ahead and add a class. It's going to call better in blue. I'm just going to say background color is equal to, spoiler alert, blue. And I'm going to go ahead and add a class to this. So I'm going to say better in blue dot class list dot add. Okay, better in blue. All right, now this is much better because now we have some functionality. I don't run this this function does not run until it's called. Right? Remember, this function will sit here until something calls it. So it's only going to be called when someone clicks this button. So when I click this button, it will change the background color of that div to blue. And now I've got my basic interactivity. So now when the user clicks something, hovers over something, after their mouse leaves something, scrolls over something, whatever the user does, okay, I can be ready for it and say, well, if the user does something, then I will change the page. In this case, I click this and turn this blue. Now, if you refresh the page, this thing is refresh, you'll notice it goes back to normal. Okay, so it will refresh everything. It will start from the beginning. And if I click, so let's go through this again, make sure you clearly understand this. First, I found this button. I have the button. I added an event to the button. Which event did I add? Click. Okay, when click happens, okay, again, this is called a listener because it's going to wait for the user to do something. I have no idea if they'll even click this button or when they will, and I don't really care. All I want to do is have a listener set up to say, if they click this button, run this function. Okay, so button click is the function I wanted to run. Here is the function, and then it does whatever I want to do in the function. So in this case, I want to get that better in blue element, which is this right here, and add a class to it, better in blue. When I click this button, so when I click this, bam. Okay, it will update the CSS for the file, and I've got interactivity. And if you get this basic concept, you can make your website do whatever you want. Okay, once you get the hang of this, all these events in here, okay, it's like, wow, there's so many. Well, your user can do a lot of different things, okay, that you may or may not have realized. Okay, now you're a dev, you're going to start realizing all of what your user can actually do on a website, and you can respond to all of it. Okay, that is the fun of this.